7:30 and time to start the meeting. Yes, sir, Mr. Tollison. Hello. Well, there's Kent. Kent is out there somewhere. Welcome to the Mayor and Council meeting for April 19th, 2010. I would like to invite the Sons of the American Revolution to come forward and lead us in the pledge, if we'd all stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if the Sons of the American Revolution would stay up front, I have a proclamation to read recognizing Patriots Day. Whereas on April 19th, 1775, is a momentous day in our nation's history. And whereas in the early hours of that day, three patriots, Paul Revere, William Dawes, and Dr. Samuel Prescott, rode through the streets of Massachusetts to warn fellow colonists that British troops had been assembled and were advancing with the intention of capturing Patriot leaders and military stores. And whereas, answering this alarm, men and women congregated on the village green in Lexington on the morning of April 19th, 1775, took up arms and commenced the struggle that would end England's control of the American colonies. And whereas the shot heard round the world was fired in Concord by determined patriots from the Middlesex countryside who confronted the redcoats and ultimately forced the British to turn back at Northbridge. And whereas minutemen, militia, and colonists from cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth joined forces along the Battle Road in Menotomy, now known as Arlington, and overpowered the retreating British. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the importance of this day in our history and pay tribute to the dedication of those assembled on the village green in Lexington for that decisive battle. And whereas the Piedmont chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, an organization of lineal descendants of patriots of the American Revolution, reminds us of the courage and sacrifice of our founders who pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to bestow the blessings of liberty upon this great state and nation. Now therefore I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim April 19th, 2010 as Patriots Day and urge all of the citizens of Roswell to become more knowledgeable of the role of the Revolution played in the history of our great nation. Let's have a hand for our patriots and the Sons of the American Revolution. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Y'all want this proclamation? Thank you, sir. Anything else you wish to add? The microphone is yours if you'd like to add anything.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, today is indeed a historic day. It is our distinct pleasure to participate in this annual event, and as part of that process you will find a brochure which we have developed in the state to help promote the information and the accuracy of history as it played out during the American Revolution. And it is our distinct pleasure to be before you this evening to participate in this ceremony. And we're so appreciative of the patriotism that we see annually on these grounds each year at Memorial Day and other events. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Lee, two representatives, University of Phoenix, and Donald is our Executive Director of Child Development Association. What we have is the University of Phoenix has been gracious enough. They came over and visited our Child Development Association. They were very impressed with what they saw. You and I were invited last year, if you remember, to their graduation. They presented us with a check for $10,000 for our Child Development Association. So this evening we're having a reenactment. This is not an official Civil War battle. It's a reenactment. And we're going to have a check presentation from the University of Phoenix to the Child Development Association. And if you would like to...
My entire council would love to join you.
That would be
Shake
so
your
kind
hands
if you
and,
would do that.
Thank you
very
for
much.
bringing this to Roswell. Council, if you'll join me, we'd like to show our appreciation.
Right up here.
The light's better, actually.
Next, I'd like to invite the representatives from the Community Inclusion Awareness Month to come forward as I read a proclamation. And I'd like former council member Tollison to join them because I know he's still a big supporter and represents the National Down Syndrome Congress, who is part of the community which we are trying to include. And with that, I will read the proclamation regarding Community Inclusion Awareness Month. Whereas all people are of value to our society, regardless of their abilities. And whereas U.S. Census figures identify over 13,000 Roswell citizens who have developed a physical disability. And before I go any further, let me see a show of hands of the folks in green shirts who have either personally or their representatives responded to the census to let the U.S. government know that you're in our city. How many people have responded? All right. Wait a minute. Do I see a hand nod up back there? Okay. And that goes for everyone else in the audience. Roswell is, the census is important to our city. It's important to all of our citizens, regardless of their ability or their income. Last we heard, our response rate was 72%. One of the best response rates in Metro Atlanta, if not the state. We hope to, Mountain Park is beating us, but Mountain Park, the mayor can call all the individuals in the city in one afternoon and get them to respond. He's got a little different job than we did. But it'll make differences in how many representatives we have in Washington, how many representatives we have in the state capitol, how much money we receive from the state, and how much money filters down to all of our civic programs, whether it's the Child Development Association or anyone else. So, folks out there, if you haven't responded to the census, or if anybody you know hasn't responded to the census, it is very important. It's going to make a difference over the next 10 years. And I apologize but you folks make a good example of we've got a 100% response rate among these people, and you cannot do better than that. And that is a sign of good citizenship. All right, back to the proclamation. Whereas the Georgia Governor's Council on Disability states that 1 in every 5 people have a developmental disability. And whereas the Inclusion Task Force was formed to increase awareness and to identify and coordinate access to opportunities, services, and programs serving people with special needs through enhanced private and public partnerships. And whereas the ADA Task Force was created to ensure the city's compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act. Mr. Tollison is serving. Are you serving on that yet? I'm not sure. Was that before or after you ran for mayor? Well, I'm glad you're still on that board, even though you've left as council, and has worked toward making Roswell the first city in Georgia with ADA transition plan as required by federal law. And whereas Roswell continues to work with others to create opportunities that will improve the quality of life for people with disabilities and their families, and advance the understanding of the abilities of all people through education, research, and public service. And whereas Roswell's goal is to promote and increase the inclusion and integration into the community of all of our citizens, now therefore I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim April 2010 as Community Inclusion Awareness Month in Roswell, and invite everyone to participate that and to include everyone in Roswell as part of our city. And with that, let's have a hand for everybody that's included in Roswell. Do we have a spokesperson for the Community Inclusion Awareness Month to address the council and the audience?
Yes, we do. My name is Chris Bray. I'm a transition services teacher at both Roswell and Centennial High School. These green shirts here, Mayor Wood, you may remember it was about a year and a half ago you were the ribbon cutter for our opening ceremony for our coffee shop at Roswell High School. So this is our amazing student staff and the teachers, Chris Ricks and Pat Beard, that are involved in running this great operation over at Roswell. So I want to
How
make
is the
sure
coffee shop at Roswell High doing?
How are you guys doing?
All right.
It is probably without a doubt
Beyond explanation, I guess. It's so great.
I'd say a smashing success. I think, Spencer, were you going to say something along those lines?
It is a great of anything else.
I couldn't have said it better
That's
myself.
right.
Thank you, sir.
And although we primarily serve staff and some students, I guess, on some days, if you're ever in the Roswell High School area, you're welcome to come in. Operating hours till when? When do you guys close?
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
8
So
to
if you
10
need
in the
early
morning.
morning coffee, come on by the high school. Make sure you sign in the front office. All right, guys, if you want to go sit down.
Thank you for coming tonight. Let's have a hand for all these young students. Are we checking?
Mayor and the council, I just had a couple stories I wanted to share about individuals in our community. One would be a current student. Her name is Christina. She's a student over at Centennial. Christina is a star student. When I was back in the classroom, she was probably the hardest working student I had in my world history class. Christina played basketball, was on several basketball teams that I coached over the years. Awesome athlete. I lost her this past season because she decided to sing in the church choir. Gave up. I was missing my shooting guard. She works in the community 2 days a week at Sports Authority. She's got all these various experiences. Tonight was probably, I imagine, I wasn't there, I missed out on it, but it was probably the highlight of her high school career. She's been the JV manager for the JV soccer team, and they allowed her to play in the game tonight. Christina has Down syndrome. I imagine there are lots of wet eyes over at the field this evening watching Christina go out in the field, and I imagine there was one huge smile as well. She's an amazing story, and there are lots of stories like that we're achieving through our schools and giving our young people opportunities, and this is reflective of the community we have here that supports our young people. Now, another story is involving a former student many years ago named Nick. Nick got introduced to the work world through the city of Roswell. He started with a part-time job over the summer, very shy guy. But over time, he blossomed and given more opportunity as time went on. He was recognized for his abilities. And over time, he was given more responsibility to the point now where he's a full-time employee within the Roswell Rec and Parks Department. So we've got examples of kids that have achieved throughout this community. I think it's something we need to continue to embrace. We have awesome programs such as Project Search through North Fulton Hospital, which is allowing many of our students to go from our high schools into the hospital to get work experience that allow them to get full-time jobs. And we have examples of these happening year by year now that we've been doing this program for over the past few years. There are lots of things that we have in this community. It's a very special place for including people with disabilities, but it's something that we have to keep in mind and continue to be vigilant and supporting these young people, because it's something where we're obviously in an economy now that is tough for everyone as far as finding jobs and opportunities beyond high school. This is something we always need to keep on our eyes here, because it's a very tough transition for anyone to make. And then you have the added situation with a disability. It's even tougher. But thankfully, in living in a community like Roswell, there are supports, and I hope we continue to keep that as a focus for our community. Thank you very much.
Chris, thank you for your efforts. Thank you for bringing those stories to us. And thank you and all the people that are involved to make sure that all of the citizens of Roswell live up to their full potential. And as long as Mr. Tollison is out there, I'm sure he will make sure this council is reminded and stays involved in helping all of our citizens. So I want to thank Mr. Tollison, thank you, and thank the entire community to keep this in our focus. And it's a great story to tell, so keep telling that story. Let's have a hand for the community inclusive.
Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Jerry Orleans, a liaison to the Administration and Finance Department. Announcement out, and we'll go over it. It's going to be a very short council meeting. Yeah, if the green shirts can meet us in room 220, we'll be there shortly. It's going to be, I'd say 15 minutes, and we'll be joining you. Do not eat all the food before we get there.
Okay, our first item on the agenda tonight is
to recognize one of our intern employees. So I'd like to call up Julie Liu.
Jake, will you join me, please?
Got to have him up here, right?
It is with great pleasure I introduce to you Jake Hersko to you tonight. He's been interning in the finance department, and the work and all that he has been performing is just excellent. He is a keeper for government, and that's going to be our job to keep him interested in government. As an MPA student at Georgia State University and as an employee of the City of Roswell, he has received the 2010 Rick Anderson Scholarship from the Georgia State University Department of Public Management and Policy and the 2010 Harold F. Holtz Jr. Master of Public Administration Scholarship Program awarded by the Georgia City County Management Association. And Kay, I believe you were there when he received that award. Jake, we are very proud of you and glad to have you as part of our staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. Now, you know you can't go to any other city, right, Jake? Next item on our agenda is the approval of a resolution to call for a referendum regarding our redevelopment powers. The city attorney will read the resolution.
Thank you. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Roswell have determined that it is in the best interest to exercise redevelopment powers under the Georgia Redevelopment Powers Law, and whereas on March 24, 2010, the General Assembly of Georgia adopted House Bill 1349, attached hereto and incorporated herein, thereby authorizing the city to exercise powers under OCGA 3641-1, the Georgia Redevelopment Power Laws, and whereas such act, pursuant to state law, contains a provision making the act subject to approval of a citywide referendum, and whereas the City of Roswell deems it in the public interest to enter into a contract with Fulton County, Georgia to conduct a November 2, 2010 special election, and whereas OCGA 21-2-540A provides that a special election held at the time of a general election shall be conducted by poll officers by the same use of the same equipment and facilities as far as practical as are used for such general election. Now therefore be it resolved, and is hereby resolved, that the mayor and council do hereby call for a special election as provided by law for the purpose of submitting this act to the electors of the city of Roswell for approval or rejection. The ballot shall have written or printed thereon the words, Shall the act be approved which authorizes the city of Roswell to exercise redevelopment powers under the Redevelopment Powers Law, as it may be amended from time to time. And you can vote yes or no. And be it further resolved that the mayor or the city administrator are authorized to contract with Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections to conduct this election in the referendum on the question of redevelopment powers. That the call for these elections issued according to law. I never approve this will be the resolution.
Do we have a motion for approval?
And again, this will be on the ballot November 2nd of this year, and I move for approval of the resolution as read.
Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item on the agenda is approval to change the committee meetings. Changing the Administration and Finance and Recreation and Parks Committee and the Public Safety and Public Works Committee, which will be held the first Monday of the month at 5 o'clock. It also changes the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting to the fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m., following the fourth Monday of the month council meeting. And I think that calendar is in your package, and the recommendation was for approval coming out of the Administration, Finance, Rec and Parks Committee meeting. So I move for approval of the changes to our committee meeting dates.
We have a motion by Councilman Member Orleans. Or that was
Correct.
5. Do we have a second?
Correct.
Second by Councilmember Price. Further discussion. Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Okay, well, one more try here. 'Cause it's actually kind of humorous looking at this list here. One of the main reasons that we decided to move the council meetings from the 1st and 3rd week to the second and fourth week is because we knew we would have to move meetings in the future, so it theoretically made it easier. But if we make this change and make the Monday committee meeting, we're actually going to have to change at least 2 meetings of those the rest of the year. And looking at next year's calendar, it's another 3 times. So we're actually putting ourselves back into the situation we were trying to get rid of on the council meeting. So that's one issue. Second issue is when we look at the calendar, and I don't know if we all look at this the same way. I didn't notice this till today looking at it, that it's the 4th Wednesday that we're now looking at and the 1st Monday. So we are regularly going to have back-to-back committee meetings now between one and the other, except for the few times when we have the 5th Monday. And, my concern is we're really setting up staff to have a lot of work spread out throughout the month rather than kind of combining it. And now we're doing the committees back-to-back with that. And what we looked at, or what I proposed, was staying in the same week as the as the council meetings. So we kind of group all those together. We focus on these types of meetings twice a month, and then we let the staff off and do their regular work for the rest of the time. And it seems to me that we're not accomplishing that. So I have concerns about this. So I'm going to offer an amendment that we go back, rather than number 5, make number 4, which is the Tuesday following the first council meeting, which this is not going to sound right, but the Tuesday after the first council meeting, I'll just leave it at that, and the Wednesday after the 4th, so it's the same on that second part. So make an amendment change, offer that amendment.
Do you have a number so we can keep?
It's number 4, and we don't have that in our packet.
Number 4.
But basically all it does is change the admin, finance, public works, and whoever's all in that one from the first Monday to the Tuesday following our first council meeting now.
We have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Further discussion. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Mr. Egelhart makes a good observation that having the committee meetings scheduled for number 5, they really do become back-to-back, and we hadn't really focused on that, but I think that's a good point. I also tried to schedule around this calendar over the weekend and was having a very difficult time, so I think I've changed my position on this since the committee meeting and leaning toward number 4 myself.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Price.
I'm not sure that's the greatest solution, but is there any difference in the first Monday and the third Monday, or is the same concerns apply?
Who is your question addressed to?
Anybody. Anybody who's
Does anybody wish to answer that question? I see no takers.
I just think it's kind of the same thing, that it again does it one after the other and ends up taking 3 weeks out of 2 weeks instead, and leaves us with just really one open week. So,
Councilmember Orleans.
Just to kind of outline some of the things we discussed in different meetings about it. Having the first Monday, even though it may move on a holiday, it's a committee meeting. It's not moving the entire council meeting and the public notification. Secondly, we can move it to Tuesday night rather than Wednesday night, the way we had to move the council meetings, because we're not using the council chambers, and we couldn't use the council chambers on a Tuesday night. So that was the logic on part of moving it to the first Monday. And the meeting being one committee towards the end of the month and the other one being the first week in the month, they are different departments, different committee meetings that staff would be working on separately for those meetings, no matter when they take place. So those are some of the things that we came across in prior discussions to coming to this conclusion and coming to this recommendation of week number 5.
Nancy Diamond, you appear to be the sole unknown vote. Do you wish to express your opinion before you vote, or were you just going to surprise everybody?
My position has been the same from the start, so I've been a fan of number 4 from the beginning, and I think that has been what I've found in my independent surveys, informal surveys of staff as to what's most productive for their time.
Well, I might be able to predict the vote here. Councilmember Price?
I just like to express that some of the advocacy for number 4 that has been expressed is such that we have 2 weeks off, and I hate to see anyone expressing that sort of opinion that having a two free weeks is a valid or admirable goal on part of council.
I can assure you I have no weeks off, so if that helps. Any last words before we vote on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, raise their hands. That's Councilmember Eichelhart, Nguyen, DiPolito, and Diamond. All opposed? That would be Price and Orleans. The amendment passes. Now we're going to vote on the motion as amended, which is to approve number 4. Let's see if we reshuffle this deck and see what happens. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's Councilmember Eichelhart, Nguyen, DiPolito, and Diamond. All opposed? We're consistent. Councilmember Price and Orleans opposed. The 4 is approved by a vote of 4-2. Councilmember.
No, sir.
Staff member, City Administrator K. Love has a question.
Yes, sir. When would this be effective? June 1st, just like the council meeting
Does any
change?
council member have any objection to it going into effect June 1st? Councilmember Price.
Could we clarify the times of those committee meetings?
Sure we can. What are the times?
We don't have number 4 in our package.
The times were 5 p.m. for the Admin, Finance, Rec and Parks, Public Safety, and Public Works meeting, and 8 a.m. for Community Development and Transportation. So it's my understanding the meeting times did not change from current. It's just the meeting dates.
Which are now what?
Which are now the dates?
Days of the month. I don't have 4 and I don't remember it, so I'm trying to clarify what days.
On calendar 5, if you look at calendar 5.
4.
No, what I'm saying is if you look at calendar 5 in your packet, then what we're moving to would be the yellow squares would be moving to the Tuesday behind the first blue square. In other words, it's the Tuesday following the first council meeting of the month, which is the second Monday, if that makes any sense. And we will get these out. We'll be publishing these so that staff and the council and citizens know when they are.
At this time, I'll call upon Councilmember Becky Nguyen, liaison to the Environmental Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, I just want to I think I gave Mayor and Council and everyone one of these. It's our first issue of Waterworks. Mr. Mooring? Where's Mr. Mooring? Okay. This is our first issue, and it's for our residents who use Roswell Water, or Cecil Wood Water Plant. So I just want to let you all know that that's what this is, and we're really excited about having our very, very first issue, and many more to come after that one. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. And great job that y'all did with that, by the way.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Our first item is, probably our only item, is an approval of a resolution to accept a Department of Energy Local Energy Assurance Plan grant and approval of a budget amendment 717-0S1-04-19-10 in the amount of $130,000. Do we have to have that read?
Do we have a motion?
Okay, Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is a Department of Energy local energy assurance plan grant. Basically, it is a fully funded grant from the federal government to help us develop an energy plan, alternative energy, and energy assurance in the case of emergencies, disruptions, and so forth. Yvonne Douglas is here tonight. She was the person who identified this grant, did the liaison with federal and state governments, and wrote the application that resulted in the only winning award in the state of Georgia.
Let's have a hand for Yvonne. That's a pretty big deal.
And recommend your approval.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Becky Nguyen. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhart. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond, liaison to the Public Safety Department.
Yes, I'd like to invite
There's a
Chief
question.
Williams. Sorry.
Chambers for questions, didn't ask council for questions, but I had one.
Okay. Chief Williams, if you wouldn't mind coming up and giving us a little more information. Our first item is approval of a resolution to apply for a 2010 Safe Neighbors Grant from State Farm Insurance in the amount of $22,000.
If approved, this grant would allow us to buy an automatic license plate reader to be mounted. This would be just one unit to be mounted on a police car. The unit scans automobile tags as the car is in motion, or whether it's set in still or it encounters tags. It can process over 1,000 images a minute. It automatically runs them through the police criminal databases, the NCIC, National Crime Information Computer System, and alerts the officer if the car is stolen or if the owner of that car has a warrant outstanding against them.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond to approve this application. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Dippolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Any questions by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. And
our next item is approval of a resolution to submit an application for the Bureau of Justice Assistance State Criminal Alien Assistance Program.
The state.
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. The State Criminal Assistance Program allows the police department, and in this case, Roswell Police Department, of course, but other local jurisdictions also, to apply for payments for any expenses occurred in housing undocumented criminal aliens. This would be for the correction officers' expenses, that is, who have had at least one felony conviction or 2 misdemeanor convictions and who are incarcerated for at least 4 days during the reporting period. So we have a May 7th deadline on this, so we appreciate approval tonight so that we can go forward in applying for the grant.
I would move to approve this resolution.
motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Is that second by Councilmember Price? Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Any questions by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
And I believe our last item, approval to apply for jail enforcement officer training under 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act.
For the last several years, Council has authorized us to apply for this. We intend to apply again with your permission. This would provide for training for our detention officers. They would be able to process criminal illegal aliens that are found in our custody and do that in conjunction with ICE to get them processed faster, and hopefully ICE would then be able to take the appropriate action, which could include removing them from the country.
Thank you, Chief. I'd move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Any questions of council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from our city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is approval to move the May 31st, 2010 open forum meeting to Wednesday, June the 2nd. May the 31st is Memorial Day holiday, and City Hall will be closed. In the past, when the holiday has fallen like this, we have moved this particular meeting.
Do we have a motion to move the meeting?
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Question? Is that a question? Question by Councilmember Price.
Was there any reason not to move it like to the 1st, the next day?
No, there is no reason. It's the pleasure of the council. Our tradition has been to, when we had a Monday holiday, is to move it to Wednesday because sometimes we have conflicts with Tuesday meetings in the chambers.
DRB meets on Tuesday in the chamber.
Design Review Board.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. All I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel and the acquisition of real estate.
Do we have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. All in favor, raise your hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. We have a reception in room 220. We have a reception in 220 followed by a work session. And what is the subject of the work session, Ms.
The
Laura?
Transportation Master Plan.
Transportation Master Plan.